What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Colt Williams back with another tier list video. Today we are doing running backs. I'm giving you my top 40 guys for week 3. Whether you're 0-2, 2-0, it all matters and comes down to who you're starting. You got to start the right guys, and I'm here to help you out with exactly that. Let's kick it off with no other than Bijan Robinson. He's a no-brainer, but Carolina's defense, they made NFL history. They were so bad last season. Made some progress, but not enough. You're obviously starting Bijan. Another obvious start, CMC. Christian McCaffrey is my number 2 running back on the week versus the Cardinals. He's not practicing Wednesday, but I wouldn't be too terribly concerned about him. He's going to get a lot of those days off throughout the season. It's a veteran day of rest. He doesn't need that type of practice. He's everything for the 49ers. You're obviously starting him, whether it's Mac Jones or Brock Purdy. Derrick Henry. Now, he gets Detroit. He had a pretty down week against the Browns in week 2. He's fumbled in each of the last 2 games. You obviously go right back to him. This is a 52.5 point over-under. Derrick Henry is in your lineups. Jonathan Taylor is coming in at number 4 for me. He goes to Tennessee to play the Titans. I love seeing him do work against the Broncos. The Broncos are a very stout defense, but Jonathan Taylor's out there making plays. Over 6 yards a carry, 165 yards in week 2. The Titans should be the test for Daniel Jones, but not for Jonathan Taylor. You might have been asking yourself, where's Saquon Barkley? Here he is. He's coming in at number 5. Surprisingly, he's at number 5 because last season he had his best game against the Rams. He's not doing exactly what he did as last season. I mean, he's down at 3 yards, 4 yards per carry. The offense they're winning games, and they're running the ball a ton. You can obviously see that, and you're starting Saquon Barkley, but I think the Rams' game plan going into this is to make Jalen Hurts attempt to throw the ball past the 10-yard line. James Cook, I'm going to be straight up with this one. I recorded this just before the Bills-Dolphins kickoff game, so Thursday Night Football game, rather. Yeah, this is where I would have James Cook and Devon Achane ranked, but I unfortunately did not get into that. So hopefully they did well for you and your teams, and you're seeing this, and you said, yeah, they were a great start. You were starting them regardless, especially the week that James Cook had and Devon Achane getting 1 million targets. But yeah, those guys, don't have too much analysis on them. We're still data gathering, but that was a Thursday Night Football game, so my bad on that one. I will have you next week. I promise you that. Jahmyr Gibbs coming in as my running back 8. Plays Baltimore. Again, this is the highest over-under of the week. You're starting him. I expect a ton of points out of both teams here in this one. Bucky Irving, he gets the Jets. He led the Bucs in receptions in week 2. First home game of the season, so that'll be nice. He's an auto start playing against the Jets. They're going to be up ahead. So, yeah, this is a Bucky Irving train. Keeps chugging along. Chase Brown. Let's have a little bit of a conversation here. You can see the stats, not having 3 yards per carry, and now he's lost Joe Burrow. People are going to be concerned. I've seen trades for Chase Brown. They said, I'm getting rid of him. I'm going to DeAndre Swift. I've seen that trade happen in a league. They're highly concerned. If you could trade for him, I think I would. I'm expecting the production to go down just a little bit, but you could see an increase of checkdowns. You could see a decrease of goal line opportunities, given that you've got Jake Browning there. But nevertheless, he's inefficient, but he's literally got all of the Bengals rushing attempts for the running back position. So he's still in your lineups regardless of Joe Burrow. And then coming in at number 11, Josh Jacobs plays at Cleveland. He's got a touchdown in the first 2 games, so that is what's going to make you happy. The Browns, their defense will be a test because they did just shut down Derrick Henry in week 2. They held Chase Brown, who we just talked about, to 43 rushing yards in week 1. So you're starting him, of course, but perhaps maybe temper your expectations. And before we get to tier list 3, being tier B, make sure you subscribe to the channel. If you haven't already, turn on notifications so that you can see when I go live. I'm live every single Sunday. 1 hour before kickoff, and then I'm throwing up videos like this and other data analysis and stuff throughout the week. So yeah, be sure to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Thank you for that. Kicking off Tier B, we've got Javonte Williams. He's coming in at my running back 12, so he's a top 12 running back for me. is there a world where, he's back? I mean, he's back. Javonte seems like he's back. You got to keep starting him. You take away the name, just look at the production and say, yeah, that's what I want for my running back position. And people had their concerns, obviously. Rico Dowdle, having the time of his life there, but only having 2 rushing touchdowns throughout the entire season. Javonte's already got 3 on the season, and yeah, it looks nice. So yeah, the Bears, you're starting all of your Cowboys in this game. They just got ate up by Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason, then Jahmyr Gibbs and Monty. So yeah, you're starting Javonte Williams. Keep riding that train no matter what. And then second in rushing yards, Travis Etienne playing against Houston. He's only second in rushing yards behind Jonathan Taylor. I don't think we would be saying that maybe like a month ago. Everybody, if there's a Travis Etienne truther out there, please comment in the comments below and just let me know, because I need to know how you knew this. You a prophet or something? Just let me know. He's averaging over 7 yards a carry. It's his toughest matchup yet, but he's still going to be a lock for most rosters. And then Jordan Mason, he gets a big bump up. He obviously plays the Bengals here. This is going to be a nice matchup. Didn't look good in week 2. But Atlanta's defense has looked better. They, used a lot of draft capital to bolster that defense. Cam Akers got elevated from the practice squad, so we should see, a little bit more out of him. But the biggest thing is Aaron Jones is out. He's on IR. Jordan Mason is their guy. He was already taking away snaps from Aaron Jones. So, yeah, Jordan Mason, he's my running back 14 for the week, so I'm pretty happy with him if you've got him. And then Alvin Kamara, the ageless wonder. He's getting it done at 30 years old. I was concerned about the passing work after week 1. I'm not going to lie. But following week 2 with 6 receptions, super solid running back 2 going into week 3. And then Ashton Jeanty. Now, this is not the guy you thought you drafted in round 1 or 2 of your fantasy draft just weeks ago. However, he's looked good. He's making tons of moves on the field. You can see his athleticism. Some of it is translating. But the biggest thing, I think, is they just had a presser. Ashton Jeanty was asked, what's your workload looking like and all that kind of stuff. He said, and I quote, "I don't think you draft a guy like me to not give me carries and touches. I'm ready for the responsibility." Now, you might have seen it, going around on Twitter or on social media just in general, but his pass protection's been lacking just a little bit. And that's obviously an area where that's getting, Laube onto the field. That's getting Zamir White onto the field. Ashton Jeanty, you keep starting him. The squeaky wheel will get the grease, whether it's this week against Washington or it's next week against the Bears. So, yeah, Ashton Jeanty, I'm pretty excited about him. And then Kenneth Walker, this is the 2 games, 2 completely different outcomes. The Steelers have looked... he gets the Saints here in week 3, but the Steelers, they've looked like a run funnel defense, but even at that, Walker did look good, regardless of the defense that he was playing. I'd expect the Seahawks to be up in this game against the Saints, so it could be another big day for Walker. It is worth noting that Zach Charbonnet has had more snaps and more rush attempts through both games so far. Tony Pollard, no other than 6th in rushing yards on the season. He gets the Colts. He started off the season with 2 brutal matchups against the run, but now he does get his easiest matchup against the Colts. I'd expect more targets for him. 1 target in each game so far. That's not a lot. Cam Ward could use him in that facet. And then Tajay Spears is obviously coming back at some point. So, yeah, Tony Pollard needs to be used in that passing game to really get things rolling. Breece Hall shut down in week 2. He plays Tampa here now. It is a tough run defense. I'd expect a negative game script, given that, the Bucs have been awesome basically all season. And, more targets from Tyrod Taylor in their efforts to come back in this game. Kyron Williams, he plays the Eagles. This is a tough matchup. Kyron Williams is somebody you're probably starting. He has been pretty inefficient. He's gotten a lot of volume. He lost a goal line touchdown to Blake Corum, so that's something to monitor in this one. But much like Chase Brown, he's just kind of getting a lot of the work, so you're throwing him still out there in all of your lineups. Chuba Hubbard coming in at 21 versus Atlanta. Again, Atlanta's defense has looked much better this season. It is the first game for the Panthers at home. And Chuba is on an insane 93 target pace. You would have liked to see some, better running days on the ground against the Jags and the Cardinals, but, his passing game and just the pure volume has certainly kept him fantasy relevant. We talked about DeAndre Swift just a little while ago. You're starting all your Bears. You're starting all your Cowboys. This is a 50-point over-under. He's been limited in practice on the week, so that is something to monitor. And he plays later on the Sunday slate, so, be ready to audible if you don't already have an option. I know it's hard to move out of running backs, especially with Aaron Jones going down and other players just not participating. So, yeah, just keep that in mind. And then James Conner, he plays at San Francisco. He hasn't had over 40 rushing yards in either one of his games here this season. Now, Trey Benson, he's coming off a career game in week 2. The thing that saved you so far on James Conner is he has found the end zone on both of these games, and it was against easy matchups. This is by far a much harder matchup against the 49ers. And if you could trade him while he's a running back 17, I think I would. And then rounding out our running back 2s, running back 24, Jaylen Warren at New England. Warren, he has been splitting the work with Kenneth Gainwell. And no Caleb Johnson just yet. Caleb Johnson's making some bonehead plays. It would not surprise me if he was like a healthy scratch in this game. But be warned, the Patriots have been much better against the run. They held Devon Achane to just 30 rushing yards on 11 carries, and Ashton Jeanty to 38 rushing yards on 19 carries. So kind of temper expectations there with Jaylen Warren. I don't mind starting him, but that's something you gotta look out for. And again, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of the future videos. Make sure you turn on notifications because I do go live every single Sunday. And then Marion Hampton is kicking off the D tier. Running back 25. He plays Denver. We just saw Jonathan Taylor light them up, so that is a little bit encouraging. But in most leagues, you have to start him. I really like to see some kind of juice out of him before I throw him back into my lineup. And then Najee's getting involved, so yeah, again, just kind of temper expectations there until we see some sign of life for the Chargers run game. And then David Montgomery plays Baltimore. Again, this is he had his revenge game last week against the Bears. It's a 50-point over-under. He's gotten all of the running back carries so far inside the 5, so if someone were to fall short in this game, close to the goal line, that is Monty's job to punch it in. And then talking about punching it in, Ramondre Stevenson, he plays Pittsburgh. I talked about Pittsburgh being a run funnel defense, so it makes his ceiling just a little bit higher. But people forget that Stevenson is the starter for the Patriots. I saw him dropped in one of my leagues. I was baffled. I have a waiver claim setting out there for him to drop Caleb Johnson and get him for Ramondre Stevenson. So, yeah, Coach Vrabel said that I don't know if you got to see his big pass play. You could see there he's got 5 receptions for 88 yards, but that play was drawn up for TreVeyon Henderson. It's just he had 3 egregious holding penalties early on in the game, and they just didn't want to. He didn't elaborate that it was TreVeyon's fault, but we all knew exactly why he got benched. And then Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt versus the Raiders. This one has me scared because he's a total wild card. I'm ranking him here at running back 28. He should get most of the work with Eckler out for the season, but goodness, there's literally no telling. If you were fortunate enough that you can bench him and just wait until you're able to see what he does and how they want to use him and deploy him, I would love to do that. But I understand if you're not in that position, so hopefully you are. J.K. Dobbins versus the Chargers is a brutal matchup. Chargers defense finally, after years and years and years of thinking they're going to be legit, finally look legit. They've allowed the second fewest points to running backs so far on this short season, but he's still the starter. There for the Chargers, it was for the Chargers. I guess it is a little bit of a revenge game too. Yeah, trying to avoid him in a lot of these matchups if possible. And then Nick Chubb, this will by far be his easiest matchup so far. Played the Rams in week 1, got the Bucs in week 2. Now he gets the Jacksonville Jaguars. He doesn't add anything to the passing game, but if he finds the end zone, I think you'll be happy. He has been running a little bit like he has a trailer hitched to the back of his body. And then Quinshon Judkins, he looked awesome in his debut last week against the Baltimore Ravens. 6 yards per carry. He was carrying defenders on a play. He's officially a starter on the depth chart. That's what they've said. Brighter days are ahead. He plays the Packers here in week 3. That's not a positive game script. That's not a game script that I would be excited for. But yeah, temper a little bit more expectations. I'm expecting the snap count obviously to go up quite a bit, but yeah, it's the Packers. It's a risky one for sure. And then speaking of, and we talked about already Pittsburgh's defense being kind of a run funnel. TreVeyon Henderson playing Pittsburgh here in week 3. This is one where we've seen them get eaten up by explosive running backs. It was Breece Hall in week 1. It was Kenneth Walker in week 2. If you need high upside, I think Henderson does hold it here in week 3. It only takes one play for TreVeyon, but he needs to get out there. He needs to stop holding. He needs to actually do a little bit something more with his touches. So I know it's a little risky. I know it's scary, but if you need a high variance, high upside player, TreVeyon is my guy. And then Isaiah Pacheco versus the Giants. I'm expecting this to be a get-right game for the Chiefs. They're 0-2. This is, they face the Chargers, who we already talked about, and the Eagles. Both run-stuffing defense. Now he gets the Giants. Giants have allowed the most fantasy points through 2 weeks to running backs. So Pacheco could have a little bit of a bounce-back game here. I'm ideally not starting him, but some people are pushed back into a corner. And then Tyler Algier. He plays the Cardinals. He plays the Panthers. They are favored on the road. The Panthers are still a bad defense, and he doesn't add any value as a pass catcher, but I expect him to be up in this one. And if they're just running the ball a ton, regardless whether they're up. And so, yeah, I mean, Tyler Algier is somebody you could flex in this one and possibly see him find the end zone one more time. And then running back 35, Cam Skattebo versus Kansas City. I like what I saw in week 2. I hope he can continue that. They have not declared Skattebo as a starter. I have not declared that. I think it is a two-headed backfield, and that's the way I'm looking at it. It's not a great matchup, and it's still, we're not sure how they're going to keep deploying him. So, yeah, Vegas and I say this game won't really be close, so expect maybe a little bit more of the passing game as opposed to the rushing game. And then Zach Charbonnet, man, looked good in week 1. Week 2, 15 carries, 10 yards. That he's not practicing on Thursday. You need to monitor the situation totally. It's a nice matchup if he is available, but certainly temper expectations. If you're starting any of these guys in F tier, I feel a little bit sorry for you, but situations do happen. Running back 37, Bashaw Tutin versus Houston. He was limited in practice as well on Thursday. He looks shifty on his limited touches. He's a top-tier handcuff, and he absolutely shouldn't be on waivers, and nor should this next guy. Trey Benson plays San Francisco. He's coming off a career high in snaps, targets, reception. He's clearly got more juice than James Conner, who I was talking about hasn't even had 4 yards per carry so far on the season. I don't even think he's had 40 yards on the season. Another top-tier handcuff. Tyrone Tracy had 5 targets in both these games so far on the season, so that's nice to see. Maybe if that negative game script happens to come for the Chiefs and versus the Giants here, that's where Tyrone Tracy, I think, would make a little bit of his hay. And then last but not least, running back 40, Kareem Hunt versus the Giants. I already mentioned it with Pacheco. I expect this to be a get-right game. They're splitting the carries pretty evenly. And as far as running back carries inside the 10-yard line, only Hunt's got those so far, so it's 1. But it seems that they want to deploy him in that package. So if you have made it this far, I appreciate it. Thank you so much for making it here. And don't forget to subscribe, again, so you don't miss out on any of the future videos. I go live every single Sunday, help you with your start-sit questions. I'll be tilting. You'll be tilting. Let's figure it out together. But that's it for the 40 running backs here in week 3. I will be uploading my top 50 wide receivers on Friday, so I'll see you then.